Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're a night watchman in medieval London. No streetlights, no phones, no locked door behind you. Just a lantern, a wooden club, and a city that belongs to whatever's out there once the sun disappears. You didn't choose this. You're a cobbler by trade, but every man in your ward takes his turn on the watch, and tonight is yours. Refuse and you're fined. Fall asleep on duty and you're fined worse. So you stand at the gatehouse as the bell rings curfew, and you watch the last stragglers scramble home before the city seals itself shut. From this second, anyone still outside is a criminal. That's the law. No exceptions, no excuses. You are now the only thing standing between order and whatever moves through the dark. Your captain isn't a soldier. He's the guy who runs the tannery 2 streets over, middle management with a sword he barely knows how to use. He splits the ward into watch points, pairs you with a partner, and reminds you of the one rule that matters most: never walk alone. A lone watchman is an easy target. A lone watchman also can't be trusted because who's going to know if he just doesn't show up? Before you even leave the gatehouse, he runs through the gear: a horn in case you need to call for backup, a lantern because darkness this total swallows a man whole within 10 feet, and a club which you already know you don't want to use because using it means something has already gone very wrong. He also hands you the night's list, a short set of names the ward wants watched: a tanner suspected of receiving stolen goods, a woman whose neighbors reported strange comings and goings at odd hours. None of it's proof of anything. Half the names on lists like this are just old grudges dressed up as suspicion, but you're expected to pass by their homes anyway, quietly, and note anything out of place. This is the part of the job nobody romanticizes. Half surveillance, half village gossip made official, carried out by a man who'd rather be asleep. Dusk hardens into full dark, and the city changes shape. Streets you know by daylight become tunnels of black. Every doorway is a hiding place. Every sound is a decision: investigate or let it go. Your first checkpoint is the market square. Empty stalls, shuttered shop fronts, the smell of yesterday's fish still hanging in the air. You check for embers. Fire is the real enemy tonight, more than any thief. London is built from timber and thatch, packed so tight that one dropped candle can eat an entire street before dawn. You knock on shutters. You listen for crackling. You move on. Your second checkpoint takes you past the parish church, and this is where the job turns strange rather than dangerous. A priest is out past curfew, praying over a body laid out on the church steps. Someone died at home tonight, too poor for a proper burial, left here in hopes the church will cover the cost. You're not required to do anything about it. There's no crime here, just poverty doing what poverty does. You nod to the priest and keep walking because some things the watch simply isn't built to fix. Midnight brings the first real test. Voices up ahead, loud and slurred. 2 men stumbling out of an alehouse that should have closed hours ago. You and your partner approach with lanterns raised. This is the part nobody warns you about. Half your job isn't catching criminals, it's talking drunk men down before they turn into something worse. You know their names, you know their wives. Tonight, that's the only leverage you have. No badge, no backup, just a club you don't want to use and a voice that has to sound calmer than you feel. They stumble home, you breathe out, 1 checkpoint down. An hour later, you're called to a dispute you didn't expect. A merchant's apprentice caught trying to slip goods out through a side window while his master slept upstairs. Not a stranger, not a hardened thief, a boy who works there every day, gambling debts catching up faster than his wages ever could. You catch him red-handed, and now you have a choice the job never prepares you for. Report him, and he loses his position, maybe his hand, depending on how harsh this magistrate is feeling this season. Let him go, and you're complicit in a theft you're sworn to prevent. You take the goods back. You tell him to return them quietly before his master wakes. You don't report it. It's not mercy exactly, it's arithmetic. One more ruined life in a city already full of them changes nothing, and you'd rather sleep with that choice than the alternative. The witching hours come next, and this is where the city stops feeling human. 2, 3 in the morning, the cold gets into your bones. Your lantern is the only light for streets in every direction. This is when the real work happens, because this is when everyone who wants to do something illegal assumes nobody's watching. You hear it before you see it. Footsteps, moving fast, trying not to be heard. You corner the source in a side alley, a boy, maybe 16, arms full of stolen bread. He freezes. You freeze. For a second, neither of you moves. Here's what the job never tells you. The law says arrest him. Hunger says something else. You know families in this ward who haven't eaten in 2 days. You know the baker he stole from marks up his loaves the second flour prices rise. You have seconds to decide what kind of watchman you're going to be tonight. You let him run. Nobody will ever know. There's no report to file, no camera, no record, just you, your conscience, and a city that will forget this moment by morning, even if you don't. You keep moving, but the night isn't finished testing your judgment. Near 3:30, a scream cuts through the silence, sharp and close. You and your partner sprint toward it, hearts pounding, lanterns swinging wild shadows across the walls. What you find isn't a murder. It's a woman fighting off her own husband, drunk and violent, in the doorway of their home. The law here is murky at best. A man's house is considered his own domain, and the watch has no real authority to intervene in what happens inside it. You intervene anyway. You put yourself between them, not because the law demands it, but because you can't walk away and live with what happens if you do. He backs down, more out of shame at being seen than fear of you. She thanks you quietly, ashamed herself, and closes the door. There's no resolution here. Tomorrow night, you know, someone else might have to come back to this same house, but tonight, at least, it ends without blood. Near 4 in the morning, you catch the smell first. Smoke, but wrong, not the clean burn of a hearth fire, something sharper. You follow it 2 streets over and find flames already licking up the side of a thatched roof, embers jumping to the house next door. This is the moment every night watchman trains for and nobody's ever actually ready for. You don't fight the fire. You can't. One man with a bucket against a burning street is nothing. Your only job now is noise. You run, you shout, you bang on every door you pass because the only defense the city has against fire is waking everyone up before it spreads. Bucket chains form in the dark, half-dressed families dragging what they can carry into the street. And you keep moving, keep shouting, because if you stop, the fire wins. The chain holds, barely. Water passes hand to hand faster than the flames can climb, and slowly, painfully, the fire loses ground. By the time it's under control, 3 houses are damaged, one badly enough that the family inside will need somewhere else to sleep tonight. Nobody died. That's the version of success you get in this job. Not victory, just survival, and slightly fewer losses than it could have been. You help drag the last of the salvage belongings to safety, and for a moment you just stand there in the smoke and the cold, hands blistered, lungs burning, wondering how much of this city you're actually capable of protecting with nothing but a lantern and a shout. There's barely time to process it before your final checkpoint of the night arrives, the city gates, where a merchant's cart has arrived early hoping to slip through before the official opening bell in exchange for a bribe slipped into your palm. This happens more than anyone admits. A little coin here, a blind eye there, and suddenly the watch's authority is worth exactly as much as its integrity that night. You wave him off, not out of virtue exactly, more caution. The captain's been cracking down lately, and getting caught costs more than any bribe is worth. Before you can even catch your breath from the fire, a runner finds you, a message from the next word over, asking for extra hands. A body's been found near the riverbank and the local watch is short-staffed tonight. You and your partner make the walk, lanterns bobbing through streets slick with fog rolling off the Thames. The body belongs to a boatman, face down in the shallows, and it's immediately clear this wasn't an accident. Bruising around the throat, pockets turned out. Whoever did this wanted it to look like a drowning, and if you hadn't been called in, it likely would have been recorded as exactly that. There's no coroner waiting this hour, no investigators, no evidence markers, nothing but you, a colleague from another ward, and a growing sense that whoever did this is still somewhere close. You search the immediate area, more out of duty than expectation. Riverside crime rarely gets solved. Too many boats, too many strangers passing through, too many ways to vanish downstream before morning. You note what you can, cover the body, and send word to have it collected at first light. This is one of the parts of the job that never makes it into any romanticized version of the watch. Sometimes you don't stop the crime, you don't catch the criminal, you just document the aftermath and carry the weight of knowing justice, tonight, isn't coming. Walking back toward your own ward, exhaustion starts to set in properly. Your legs ache, your eyes sting from smoke and cold, and this is exactly when the night decides to test you one more time. A noise from a merchant's warehouse near the docks, wood splintering, low voices arguing in hushed, urgent tones. This isn't a drunk brawl, this is planned. You and your partner approach carefully, lanterns lowered so the light doesn't announce you before you're ready. 3 men, forcing open a side entrance, sacks already prepared to carry out whatever's inside. This is the moment every part of your training, informal as it is, comes down to. 3 against 2, no horn call will bring help fast enough to matter here. Your partner locks eyes with you, and without a word, you both understand the only real option: noise, and hope numbers alone scare them off before it turns physical. You shout, you bang your club against the stone wall as loud and sudden as you can manage, and for 1/10 second, nothing happens. Then, the men bolt, sacks abandoned, disappearing into the same darkness that hid their approach. You don't chase them. Chasing 3 armed strangers alone into unlit streets is how watchmen actually die, and you know it. You secure the warehouse door as best you can and make a note to report the damage at first light. Your hands are shaking by the time you finish, adrenaline draining out all at once, leaving you hollowed out and freezing in equal measure. Dawn starts as a gray line on the horizon, and something in your shoulders finally loosens. The bell that locked the city last night will soon unlock it again. Merchants will roll their carts through the gates. Children will run through streets that hours ago were yours alone to guard. Nobody will thank you. There's no ceremony for finishing a night watch. You'll go back to fixing shoes today, and tomorrow someone else in the ward takes the lantern. That's how it works. Nobody wanted this job permanently, so nobody gets credit for doing it well. And here's the part that stings the most, looking back centuries later. Almost none of these men have names history remembers. No statues, no records, no plaques. Just an entire unpaid, unthanked system of ordinary tradesmen who held the darkest hours of medieval cities together with nothing but a club, a lantern, and the threat of a fine if they failed. Eventually, paid police forces replaced them entirely. The job vanished, and so did the memory of everyone who ever did it. The fires they stopped, the fights they talked down, the small mercies they handed out in dark alleys nobody else ever saw. All of it disappeared along with their names. Somewhere out there, a cobbler stood in a market square at 3 in the morning, decided to let a hungry kid go free, talked a drunk husband off his own doorstep, and ran headfirst toward a burning house, and then went home and made shoes the next day like nothing happened. Nobody wrote his name down, but for one night the entire city was safer because he was standing there in the dark.